activity. The second one by the same IPCC 2007 now, which says that a change in the state of the climate that can be identified by changes in the mean and or the variability of its properties. And then the third definition here is that of the Sandberg and Sandberg 2010, who says that climate change is an increase in temperature and changes in weather patterns created by carbon and other greenhouse emissions. So, this is our working definition. What is the cause of this climate change? Climate change can occur due to forces internal to climate system, such as arrangement in continents, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, and changes in intensity of sunlight. You are aware of what is happening in Japan now, where in a second, a settlement can disappear, you will not see anything there. There was an earthquake that resulted in high wave, and this wave surged into the land, the tsunami, and carried people, buildings, vehicles, everything. As at yesterday, they have counted about 3,700 deaths. So it is a climate change, this time caused by earthquake. Then we also have climate change that is internal to the system, such as the composition of the atmosphere or the clouds. But the most important one is anthropogenic, which is human caused. In fact, many people refer to climate change as a result of carbon dioxide and other gases that are being injected into the atmosphere by human activities. And linked to the climate change or the greenhouse effect are carbon dioxide, fluorocarbons, methane, nitrous oxide, and a number of gases that result from human activities. However, carbon dioxide is the chief, or the president contributes the highest rate of the greenhouse gases, followed by methane. So the problem now is that the human activities on the earth, greenhouse effect. There is a place in this university that is called greenhouse. I don't know whether many people know the reason of that greenhouse. It has nothing to do with the color of the building there. Because there are some houses that were painted green in that area. It does not mean that the houses there are green. But they had an apparatus that when they want to develop a crop on that particular temperature, they trap in that net. The house is made of nets. They trap the energy and then prevent the energy from going out. That is greenhouse effect. So these gases trap the energy. Another way of explaining it is this: if you go to the sun and then lie down, cover yourself with blanket. Cover yourself with blanket. The blanket will not prevent the heat from the sun from getting to you, but the blanket will prevent the heat from going out from you. So it forms a greenhouse. And that's why you feel very hot. So that's what this gas is carbon dioxide. From all these activities, in the evening everybody puts generator, you have their cars, some of them you push, and there's some of them you smoke and so on. That's what they are doing. They are contributing to these gases that trap the energy on the earth, which increases the heat. The manifestation of climate change is very clear to everybody now. Because we hear news about flood, about rainfall, prolonged droughts, hurricanes, sea level rise, which means that low-lying areas of the earth are potentially most vulnerable. If you know Lagos very well, that's the passage. There was a time the passage was very wide. At the time, the beach disappeared, but they have reclaimed it now. They have reclaimed it. So that is the effect of the sea level rise. Decreased water availability, spells and so on. There are many of such impacts that we are witnessing. But the specific impacts are frequent environmental disasters, disasters. The latest one now is that of Japan. Even in Russia, that is a very cold region, 15 degrees centigrade, having very high temperature. We also had such in Australia, the Australian fire disaster, the flood disaster in Australia, and so on. Also, all this will lead to food insecurity and so on, which will threaten the livelihood of the people. Yeah, please, can you scroll? You see the New South Wales, Australia. Then 2010, go to the next slide. Another one in Queensland, Australia. You see that the frequency is increasing. We are lucky how we don't experience this. I mean, in the Suka area here, you see the impact. So, theoretically, increase in carbon dioxide and solar radiation will increase in food production. But it doesn't happen so. Why? Because the heat stress, shorter growing season, higher evapotranspiration, which result in soil moisture levels being lowered, counteract the former influences, leading to overall lower production of foodstuffs. The reduction in crop yield may lead to falling agricultural production and higher prices for food, which could trigger regional food crisis. Anybody who cooks food here, particularly women, will know what happened about onions recently. Onions was very scarce. Throughout last year it was scarce from December, January. The cause of that scarcity of onions was because of the Sokoto flood disaster. Sokoto flood disaster destroyed a number of farmlands in Sokoto and Kebbi states. And these are the major areas that they produce onions in Nigeria. Yeah, go on. Yeah, insecurity and conflict. Climate change may pose threat to security situation in the country through increasing water scarcity, decreasing food security, increasing climate-induced migration, and the increase of poverty. They say that a hungry man is an angry man. So if people become hungry because of the climate change, it may lead to insecurity. And in particular, there is this recent finding now, 2011, that rainfall has a surprising influence on prevalence of social conflict. They mapped the country, the continent, Africa, in terms of the conflicts that had occurred over the years, and found out that areas that have extremes of weather elements, particularly climate, have more frequent conflict than others. This is a very recent document, and for those who are interested in researching on conflict in Nigeria, they have all the conflicts that had occurred over the past 20 years in Nigeria or more, which you can download and carry out the research on it. You can have it if you're interested. I'll give it to you. It also has influence on health. So we are talking globally, the health impact, and in summary, because we cannot go on, as the director of Applied Economics has said, climate change cuts across every aspect of life. So we cannot go on talking on all the impact, but we can summarize by saying, please go on, that climate change has impact on agriculture, water resources, and natural environment, health, human health, tourism and human welfare, energy, transport and communication, urban and rural settlements and sustainable development, economies, and financial services. So having said that, having given this background of what happens globally, let's see what happens in Nigeria. One is that it increases climate-induced environmental hazards. We have mentioned all these hazards like drought, floods, and so on. For instance, in southeastern Nigeria, the impacts include heat stress, absence of harmattan. When we were young, we know where harmattan comes and how it lasts. But now, sometimes there can be absence of harmattan. There can also be absence of what is called little dry season. The little dry season is that within the equatorial and sub-equatorial climate system, you have double maxima, high rainfall, and then a shorter rainfall within the middle, and then another high rainfall period. That's what we call August break. In some cases now, we no longer have August break. Sometimes the break comes in July, which will have the highest. But sometimes it doesn't even occur at all. So these are some of the changes. Then the flood, I mentioned about Sokoto flood. It can go on. So we see the same Sokoto flood. Then in southern Nigeria, you see lots of vegetation and biodiversity as a result of gully erosion. And these gullies are being induced by changes in the climate. Yeah, go on. Then you see lots of settlement, buildings. You see where people are living. The next few years, only God knows when they will lose that building. Yeah, go on to the next one. Yeah, that is road, agriculture and food security. In pattern of rainfall, there's this uncertainty on the season when you start planting. Sometimes the first rain will come and then it will cease. We know when rain came here, when the first rain came in this year, it was unusual. And if you go and plant your crop at that time, you may be deceived because the rain may not come in the subsequent period for the crops to be maintained. Then we also have impact on water. Some of the waters are drying up. Formerly in Nigeria, you used to have a Lake Chad coming down, Medugri, say Lake Chad. We no longer have water within the Nigerian boundaries. The Lake Chad has got dried up. The same thing with many rivers and streams. We also have beach erosion. I talked about the bad beach in Lagos. The alteration of the ecology of disease vectors, climatic elements as temperature and so on, accelerate the dispersion of pests and diseases as well as an increase in their numbers. We used to read in agriculture that while you have cattle in the north and not in the south because of the vegetable supply, but what we are observing now, that even those northern areas where we have safe, we consider as being safe, are no longer as such because the changes in climate makes these pests to also go up there. We also talked about conflict in Nigeria. Is very common between the Fulani farmers and then the Fulanis and the farmers. Especially in Benue, there's a number of bloodbath and so on between communities. The Fulani will carry his cattle across their farm and then they will start killing each other. But what is the cause of this movement is the change in climate because they need to feed their cattle. We also have population displacement. Population displacement and environmental induced migration. In northern Nigeria, some states have been overtaken, parts of some states, farmland have been overtaken by desertification. You now see sand dunes covering farmland. So what they do is to move southward. Then in the north, the coastal erosion, inundation of the lowlands makes some people to move, especially in Nembe, Eket, and other coastal settlements. So these are some of the basic knowledge that we need to know about climate change. But what do we do now as an individual? Is there anything we can do to mitigate it? Yes. Climate change mitigation refers to efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions or to capture greenhouse gases. Any effort you make in order to reduce the emission of greenhouse gas, carbon dioxide, methane and all that, or to capture it is necessary. And what do you do? One thing you should do is get interested and involved in climate change research and knowledge quest. Because it is when you really know that there's a problem that can begin to think about what you can do. So we urge everybody to get interested. Individual quest for knowledge and concern about global environmental change, include climate change and so on. Then reduce one's personal level of greenhouse gas How to reduce your personal level of greenhouse gas? What you can do is that you should minimize driving, because it has been known that air transport and private vehicles contribute more to this greenhouse. So what you can do for those short distance journeys, you can trek. It will even help you head wide. Or use bicycle. If you go to developed countries, they use a lot of bicycles. You can come to your office from this campus. Yes, with this. Okay. They say it is time. Okay. So you should plant trees, avoid bush burning, recycle your waste, and eat low carbon diets. So if you leave your email address with those, I can send the full paper to your email at the end of this. But you see, there is no time. So I thank you very much for having time to listen.